bit about the program, since OFA is the lead grantee for this project.
All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Kevin Clark of the Ohio Housing Finance Agency. And with the Ohio 811 program, this is something where we can provide rental assistance to low-income individuals who have a disability as defined by HUD. It is a disability-neutral program, as Jen had referenced, where it's for any individual with a HUD-defined disability, whether it's developmental disabilities, mental health issues, physical disabilities, and so forth. Now, the subsidy itself is tied to developments that we finance through what's called the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program. Now, rental subsidy can be thought of as either what's known as tenant-based or project-based. Something like a Section 8 voucher that someone gets from a local housing authority. That's a tenant-based rental assistance where they take into different apartment developments and used. With 811, it is a project-based, where it's used at specific properties that were built using this tax credit. At our agency, also known as OFA, we receive these credits every year from the federal government, and then we award them to private real estate developers who then build apartment communities according to specific construction guidelines that we have. And we're able to build about 3,000 new units each year using this program. Now, 811 ties in because the units are actually tied into these properties. Over the last few years, we've had a number of developers commit their properties to have a certain number of units for the 811 program. Now, the maximum number of units at a particular property is 25% of the units, and that's so we don't have, the idea of it is to put individuals with a disability in the community, into many different communities all around the state. We are hoping to have about 485 units from this grant. We have leased about 20 units to individuals through the program so far. A lot of the units are going to be coming online over the next 2 years. Many of these are new construction, and we received commitments very recently. So we have a lot of units are under construction right now, and we hope to have them all built and in service by the end of 2021. It is a program that is offered statewide. The commitments that were received are based on developers who stepped up and said, I want to be part of this program. So we're not in every county in the state, but we've got commitments for developments in 36 different counties right now. Now, it is for individuals who are low income, which is defined as having less than 30% of the median income for their county. Now, that number is different for different counties around the state, but it usually averages out to about $14,000 a year for an individual. And there's higher numbers if it's a family who will be living in one of these apartment units. And there's also an age requirement. The individual with a disability must be between the ages of 18 and 61 at the time they apply for an apartment and are admitted into the program. I'm just glancing at my notes to see what else I want to mention here. Those are the basics of the program. We do have a lot of materials available on our website. We brought a flyer with us today, and there's copies of this on the table if anyone is interested. Jen, is there anything else you wanted to add at this point? Or?
Sure. I think I'd just like to share with all of you a little bit about the referral process for this program. So the referral process. So the state has its own dedicated wait list for the 811 program. That means that it's actually online, and in order to get somebody onto that wait list, it would be a member of the local county board, and traditionally this is an SSA, who would place an individual on the wait list. What we're trying to do is kind of get before a lot of different constituency groups so that we can share the message so that it doesn't just fall on boards to think about putting people on the wait list. Certainly we want families to know about this program. We want providers to know about the program. We want anybody who might play a role around somebody's housing to know about the program. So SSAs or other board members who qualify as these referral agents actually have to do a training, and it's about an hour-long training. It can be done at their own convenience, right behind their own computer. And essentially what it does is it sort of tells them what the requirements of the program are, sets forth some of the best practices for putting together documentation, things that you would need in order to make the application for housing. And it also kind of acquaints them with the program that they use to put people on the wait list. It's called Social Serve. It is owned by a company called Emphasis. And the way that Social Serve operates is that it screens people for eligibility for the program. So it's looking to have Medicaid. What is your age? Are you between 18, not more than 61? Do you want to live independently? Things like that. And so if the person meets all the criteria for the program, then they go directly onto the wait list. And the way the wait list operates is similar to a Section 8 wait list in that people are referred on kind of a first come, first served basis. So the quicker somebody is placed on the wait list in a community, the more likely it is that they'll be referred to one of the units. So that's kind of a big message today. If this is a program of interest, there is nothing ventured, nothing gained. If people don't want to accept a unit, that's certainly their prerogative. They go out, they look at the unit, and they don't like it, then they just can pass on that unit, and they can still be offered other units after that. So just basically some of the considerations when you're thinking about this program are, where the unit is, what the amenities are, and if it's a good fit for the individual. Sometimes these developments are senior developments, so that means 55 plus. And we've had a number of individuals who have, that has been a good fit for them. They've really liked kind of some of the amenities that come with those senior buildings, secure entries and lots of activities, things like that. So we are certainly available to answer any questions about the 811 program that you might have today, or you can give me a call or email me, and I'd be happy to talk with you about anything related to this program. So I'm just going to open it up for questions now for either Kevin or myself.
How many did you say, buildings did you say that you have scheduled to be up by the end of 2021?
We hope to have about 485 units all around the state. We've got about 75 different locations that have committed to the program. Of course, many of these are under construction. Occasionally, something happens where a property doesn't get built for some reason. If that were to happen, then we try to find another commitment somewhere else.
Okay. And then you said there were 36 different counties in Ohio that you have committed with. How do you get a county to approach you? Do you approach them? How does that work? Because I say this in every meeting, Eastern Ohio, down in the boonies, we get nothing. So
What county specifically?
Specifically Carroll County, Harrison County.
Yeah. So I don't believe we do have any units there.
I don't think we have anything in Carroll or Harrison right now.
Belmont County?
Yes.
We do have a development in Belmont, and isn't that one?
That's Abby's Crossing. So Abby's Crossing has actually 9 units. So we really need a lot of people in Belmont County to go onto the wait list. So I want to segue for just one second because I want to make sure that even if we don't have an 811 unit in a county, one thing to keep in mind is that OFA's tax credit properties are able to be accessed using a Section 8 voucher. So if somebody is able to get housing choice, aka Section 8 voucher, from their housing authority, that can be utilized in tax credits.
So how do you then, how do you recruit counties to, or however that wording is?
So initially we kind of started with that blanket approach because we didn't know where all the units would be located. So we really kind of put out the word for the program, but then learned as we begin to identify where these developments would be, where these units would be, then we started to take on a more targeted approach to educating counties. So we would contact SSA directors, superintendents. We've been talking to providers about the program. So when a project is actually about to be ready to be like rent ready, so somebody can move in there, then we try to do a tour. So we'll bring everyone together. So mental health and addiction services, Medicaid, us, and OFA will all go out and we will do kind of an informational session like today. And we actually get to often see a unit or two, so that's kind of nice.
Another way to think about the program is the folks at the ODD work with the local boards, and then at our agency, we are working with property owners and property managers to get them signed up, to get them trained in how the program works. At first, when we were approaching property owners, we weren't having a lot of success getting properties signed up. So what we ended up doing is the tax credit program itself, every year we get applications from real estate developers, and it's very competitive. We can get up to 3 applications for every one we're able to fund. So as part of that, we put into our competition, if you agree to go into the 811 program, you'll get points that will help you secure your tax credits to build your buildings, and that's how we got a lot of the commitments lined up. The geography was really just based on where someone wanted to build a property. There wasn't a lot of, you must build 811 units in a certain county. So we got a mix of different counties. We're not everywhere, but we're in a lot of the major counties and a lot of smaller counties as well.
Thank you. One thing to mention is we are busily applying for another grant for this program, which will give us the opportunity to have more units across the state.
So I know you mentioned that there's a percentage of senior developments that are senior developments only. What's that percentage out of the 485 units?
Oh, I don't know the answer to that offhand. I'd say maybe 1/3 of the developments are senior developments. Now, the 811 units themselves, the age range is 18 to 61, even if the rest of the development is for individuals 55 and over.
Okay, and then the other thing, now I know with HUD, obviously with other programs, what about individuals who have criminal convictions? Are they completely excluded from this?
Yeah, I mean, so HUD has issued guidance on criminal backgrounds, and to my knowledge, that has not changed. Basically, HUD has really asked landlords to be a little bit more inclusive and to look at factors like how long ago something happened, distinguish between a criminal conviction versus just a charge. You can always use the reasonable accommodation process, which is a fair housing tool, in order to try to get somebody to overlook something in someone's background, but there are only a few things that will absolutely bar you from being able to be housed in a HUD development. And one of those is that you are a lifetime sexual offender, registered offender, production of
Methamphetamine
Yes.
on
public housing,
HUD property.
Arson is always one.
No, arson's not one, actually.
No, anymore.
No.
Okay.
No, it certainly puts you at risk for not being able to be housed because, you know, it would be a risky behavior. But there's one other one, and I feel like that's the one we always forget.
I can't remember the last one.
But I think the important point here is that people make applications, and we've actually had people in this program be denied. And we have taken issue with that, and we have worked with the SSA. In this case, it was somebody from our system, and it was an SSA who had to make a request for a reasonable accommodation. They did so successfully. That person is now housed. So I think that's what's been interesting about this program, is that it's been sort of a door to educate people about fair housing tools and about how to kind of work around challenges that come up when you're trying to house somebody. Because let's face it, whether people intend to be discriminatory or not, sometimes that inherently happens in the rental process. So we like to really kind of push, and we always like to say, turn a yes into a no. And we have had several of those things happen, whether it's a provider issue, access, criminal, what have you.
Yeah, we try to work closely with the property managers to make sure they understand what we're looking for and that their reasonable accommodations can be asked for in some cases.
And then the last question I have is, I know you have a wait list. What is the average, what do you foresee as being the average length of time on the wait list?
I don't know about an average length of time. It really depends on what county someone is interested in living in. When an individual is placed on the waiting list, they can select up to 5 counties that they'd like to live in. And then when a unit comes up, then we go in order by what order they were placed on the waiting list.
I don't think that we'll ever be able to offer an average that makes sense, really, right? At least right now, where we're still in the implementation phase. I mean, as we bring units online, it really depends on how quickly somebody is placed on the wait list. Now, this fellow that was featured in the video, he was actually placed on the wait list and was almost immediately offered a unit, and that was great. But it doesn't always work that way. And we encourage you, if you know of anybody who is looking for housing, to not just place them on the wait list, but kind of consider this program as one option that you can consider, just as you would put somebody on the Section 8 wait list.
So you select up to 5 counties. If they say no, let's say something comes up and they say no to that particular county,
Are they then, they have to start over in the process, or can those 4 counties that are remaining still be on that individual and they get the next choice?
The five counties that are there would always remain. If a unit is offered and an individual passes on that unit, then they retain their spot on the waiting list. And when another unit comes up, they can be referred to that.
Real quick, in reference to the waiting list, how many people do you have on the waiting list, just to give a idea?
We've got about 280 folks on the waiting list. As units come available, there are cases where we may not have enough folks on the waiting list to fill those units. So that's when we'll really make a push with a certain county to make sure there are enough individuals to fill the units that are coming available.
Right, and that's a fluid number. I mean, just yesterday I had somebody contact me and say, hey, I'm no longer interested. So, it goes up and it goes down.
Yeah, and there's some cases where there are developments that won't be available until the end of 2021. They're not even under construction yet. So in some counties, there could be a longer waiting time. We have a list of those properties available on our website that kind of shows which ones are available now, which ones are filled, and then which ones are coming in 2020, 2021.
You just almost answered my question. How do we find the list of what is available?
That is on the OFA website. The web address is on the bottom of the flyer that's available here on the side table, along with contact information for myself and for Stacy Riley. She is our 811 program coordinator. So whenever units come up, she's the one who's running the waiting list, being in touch with property managers and with SSAs, and really she's the central point of contact.
And how is the amount of rent determined?
The rent that the individual pays is, they pay 30% of their income, and then our program covers the rest of the rent that's being charged after the development.
What about the defined disability? Obviously, if they're being referred by a county board, there's probably a very specific disability, but what about others that maybe are applying for someone in their care that what meets that criteria?
There is a HUD definition for disability. It's pretty broad. So I think if you have a specific individual in mind, it would probably make sense to look at the definition.
Okay,
But I mean, I'm happy to share that with you.
okay. All right, thanks.
Sure.
So those with intellectual disabilities can qualify. Now, is it just one person that can live in the apartments, or could they have a roommate, and then how would that work with the wait list? Would they need to go on the wait list together?
As far as,
Go on.
yeah, just individuals go onto the waiting list. There can be more than that one individual living in a particular unit. There can be a situation where there's a roommate. It can be the disabled individual and their family. But the income of all of the people who are going to live in the unit counts toward that 30% income restriction.
Okay.
Counts toward that roughly $14,000, $15,000 a year. That's the maximum income program.
Okay.
I want to add on to that because sometimes when you even have two people who are extremely low income, so for instance they're both on SSI, it can throw them over income for a 2-bedroom unit at the 30% level. However, what we found is that sometimes they actually can realistically afford a 50% affordable unit in a tax credit property. We've had that happen. So we've had people get on the wait list and then go a different direction because they were over income.
Did you say that the SSA has to have, like, your SSA for your daughter has to have some kind of training for this in order to get you established with the 811 program?
Yes, but let me qualify that. So every board has trained, I think just about all boards that have a project in their county area have an SSA that's been trained. There may be a couple exceptions to that we're working on. So even if that specific SSA is not trained, there could be somebody else there in the at the county board level who could make the application on their behalf. In fact, a lot of boards use this gatekeeper approach, where they have one person in charge of putting people on the wait list and other people sort of that feed them these referrals.
So you mentioned that the SSA is the one that does the application. Do they stay with you through the whole process, and at what point does the landlord come in? And then how are you continue to connect with your SSA through the whole process? How does that look when you actually are accepted and put into a unit? What changes as far as management of your stay there or your ability to stay there?
Typically, the SSA will be there with the individual throughout the process of applying for a unit and being accepted and moving in. What we usually see is the SSA will accompany the individual to the property to meet with the property manager. The SSA and the property manager. The SSA and the property manager will work together. There's a lot of paperwork that has to be gone through to prove what income is and other items like that, background checks, things like that. But they generally do work together, and then our agencies are always there to help out with questions and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it does differ from person to person. We've had a couple of people go through the process by themselves because they really wanted that. But just the whole, like you mentioned, Kevin, the getting together all the documentation can be really difficult. Sometimes there's an education piece with the property manager that people be on pay ships, and that is kind of sometimes new for property managers to sift through that type of paperwork. Anyway, are we out of time? I'm not sure. We can still go. Other questions? Well, I just want to say thank you for giving us this opportunity to come up. We always like to come out and talk about this program. As I mentioned, not only do we have this grant, but we're applying for another $7 million grant with HUD. So we want to expand this program. It has been, question before we wrap?
Real quick. Is a waiver required?
No. people on state plan are eligible for this program. Medicaid is required. Yes. So the question was whether there were priorities for individuals who are transitioning from a developmental center or assuming an ICF. And the answer to that question is that no, there is not a priority for these individuals. The state has its own rental subsidy program called the Rental Assistance Program, or RAP, that people can access that is entirely focused on individuals coming from ICFs or DCs. But that program, we sort of bill it as a rental assistance program, but it really is kind of a bridge subsidy because it's a 2-year allocation. So we want to make sure that people have an offboarding strategy so that they can remain safe in community and their housing remains affordable for them. Okay, I'm just going to tell you that we do have lots of videos on our website. I think they're the same ones, except we have one extra one on our website, which features 2 SSAs who are talking about sort of some of the challenges and also the kind of what they experienced going through the training and the process for this program. And then you guys have stuff on your program too.
Yes, we have
on your website.
There's a page on our website that is dedicated to the 811 program. If you Googled OFA 811, OHFA 811, you'll find it.
Okay, and just if you go to our site and put in 811 on the DODD website, just search 811. That will take you to the page that's dedicated for the 811.
I just have one question from Facebook.
Oh, one more question.
Question from Lori on Facebook. She wants to know if an individual who needs 24/7 care would be eligible for this program.
They would be. We have individuals in the program right now who have 24/7 care. Most of the units in this program, however, are 1-bedroom units. That's just to, so if a second bedroom was needed, if there wasn't a 2-unit available through the program, that they might need to make a reasonable accommodation request to have a second bedroom. But there is no bar for it based on services.
Yes, when we have each property that participates signs a contract with us that specifies here's how many units and here's the bedroom sizes. If there was a need for a 2-bedroom unit, then we could approach that owner and ask them, do you have a 2-bedroom unit available instead for this individual?
I think of one other thing I forgot. How many are actually totally handicap accessible? So someone is in a wheelchair.
This might be a time to talk about ODMSD real quick. But
Yes.
you can talk about 5%.
There are a few of them that are. We do encourage our property owners to have those available, but it was not a requirement. Now, there is a smaller sister program to 811 called the Ohio Department of Medicaid Subsidy Demonstration, or ODMSD. Information is on our website about that as well. Those units are required to be fully accessible. Right now, we've got about 26 units committed to the property, to the program. Most of those have been leased up, though. The construction's completed on a lot of them. There's a few left in specific places, but that program is out there as well. We had a smaller amount of state money that we used to do a few more units.
So I do want to add just that we're very aware that people need accessible housing, and this demonstration we're using sort of as a platform to study those issues and to see kind of what the full demand for that is. We hear it all the time, but it's very hard to measure when you don't have anything to really measure against.
Because they're not out there, because there's nothing
Right,
available.
exactly. So it's a bit of a conundrum, but having people on the wait list who request an accessible unit does help us to be able to make that argument. Okay, thanks, Stephen. Thanks to all of you.
All right, thank you so much. All right, moving right along. So just so everybody's aware, work groups are starting up from time to time. If you are interested in being part of either a feedback group or being a part, excuse me, of a work group, there is a place on our website that you can sign up that you're interested in doing it. It doesn't necessarily guarantee that you will be a part of the work group, but we are always looking for families who have the availability and the time to serve on work groups. So this is going to be kind of our database of families who are at least interested in various topics. So you put your contact information in there, and then there's a whole range of topics that you can select from that might interest you. So just wanted to give a plug for that. So I want to turn it over to Stacy quickly to talk a little bit about the Blueprint work group.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much. Thanks, Steve, for having us. So I'm Stacy Collins with DODD in our policy division, and work on our employment and technology initiatives. And wanted just to kind of start with, as Steve talks about work group and work group signups, we are starting our next work group in regards to conversations around what our system has available for transition age youth and adults within the DD waivers. And so the actual work group is called the Blueprint for Adult Day and Employment Services. And this work group will be starting in January. And we're here today to actually get your input around the work. And so really appreciate your time and your participation. We'll be able to make sure to get participation here in the room as well as for everyone online. So I'm going to pass it over to Jackie Romerzinski, who is our lead facilitator of this work group, to actually get the session started. So Jackie, thanks.
Great. Thank you guys for having me today. I hope you're ready to work, because for about the next 45 minutes, I literally want to pick your brain. Right? And it's like that time of year where you're not sure how much brain power you have left, right? We had a little technology snafu, so I'm not going to be, I hope you don't think I'm rude, but I'm going to keep sort of pondering over here to the corner to be able to move things. So as Stacy said, I'm here today acting on behalf of the department, literally to learn from you. And what we want to talk to you about today is Adult Day Services, the Adult Day Service Array, if you will, and then the Employment Services Array. And we know that some of you all of you have different ages of family members, friends, and loved ones that you advocate on behalf of. So some of them are probably more involved in these sets of services than others, but we want all of your opinions and all of your ideas about how to improve these things. So a little bit of history. I'm sure that many of you have lived it and experienced it, but we want to evolve for the next few years. Looking back, Ohio started evolving, I could argue, in the early 2000s, but at a more dramatic pace around 2011. And there were work groups at that time. Some of you might have been involved in them. They came up with some initial strategies around the Adult Day Array, and more specifically at that time, a lot of focus on the employment side of things. That first 3 to 4 years resulted in a 16% increase in community employment. Phase 2 started in 2015. We're sort of at the tail end of it right now. And that was guided by a work group that generated a strategy white paper. Again, some of you may have been involved in that. And that's been sort of guiding the strategic direction the last few years. And that's resulted in an increase of another 29%. So where we're going now, as Stacy alluded, is putting together a work group to design the next 5 years. And right now we're calling that the Blueprint for Adult Day and Employment Services Work Group. And already, even though the first meeting hasn't happened, everyone's calling it the Blueprint. So if you hear people talking about Blueprint, this is the work group they're talking about. So to set the stage for that work group that'll launch off in early 2020, we are currently behind the scenes collecting lots of data from all the different departments and counties and providers, trying to get sort of a data look at what's going on out there. We're doing site visits, and we're also asking anyone who is on the planning team to do site visits so that they don't just bring what they do every day, but they've actually made an effort to go out and see how some other folks are doing things. And then we're going around doing groups like this with stakeholders. And you guys, of course, are one of the most important groups that we need your opinion. So that hopefully sets the stage for what we're doing. Sound like an okay thing to do between now and lunch? Okay, thanks. So here's how we're going to work today. I'm going to need you to pull your cell phones out. And those of you who are on Facebook, I believe the cell phone texting will work for you, but you also can go to the website and do it via the website. So we're going to do a mix of I'm going to throw electronic questions up here. We're going to answer. Then some of them we'll discuss more than others, just basically because of time constraints. But what this allows us to do is make sure that even if we did talk more deeply, we didn't lose anybody's thoughts, and the thoughts are in your own words. So that's what we're going to do. And if the electronics fail us, which has been known to happen, we'll go old school and start using the cards that are on the table, okay? All right. My job is to keep you moving. You may bring up some issues that I'm not super familiar with as a content expert, so I may look over here to either let them help us or follow up with it more in depth. Okay, so here's what we need to do. You can take out your phones and go to like you're going to text, and there's no charge for doing this, by the way. And instead of putting in a phone number for whoever you want to text, you'll put in 22333. That's the number you're going to text to. And then in the little button where you would text, happy birthday or whatever, that's where you're going to write my lovely long name. This is where you wish I had a shorter name. So it's J. Romer Sensky, just for kicks and giggles. And then it's a 047. So J. Romer Sensky 047, and then hit the send button just like you were hitting any kind of text message. Now, hopefully after you do that, in a couple of minutes, you get this, you've joined the Jackie Romer Sensky session. Don't do anything more. Some people see how it's powered by Poll Everywhere. They click on that. You don't have to do anything. Once you get that message, you're in. Those of you on Facebook, if the text doesn't seem to be working, you can also go to the website, pollev.com/JRomer047, and you'll get in that way. And both ways work. So it's whatever way you're comfortable with. Is everyone getting the message? Anybody got any problems? Does anybody not have a phone? Because I can share mine if anyone's having an issue. For some reason, the AT&T people sometimes have an issue. Yay. But seriously, someone can use my phone if they need a phone. Is yours not working? Here, you can use my phone. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and test this out. So which of these holidays is your favorite? If it's Memorial Day A, Halloween B, Christmas C, Thanksgiving D, 4th of July E. You just pick A, B, C, D, E, and then hit send. Good thing we like Christmas, since there's a lot of work in the next couple of weeks about Christmas. All right. Well, good to know how much you honor the troops who gave everything for all of us to be here. What a group. I'm just teasing you. Okay, so we all see how it works? Okay. All right, we'll go to another one to try. So this one lets us type in your thoughts. So in a word, or, like one word, why did you pick whatever holiday you picked? And then hit send. Candy, I like this person. Whoever put that, I like you. So you see what's happening? Okay. So you'll also see on this that the family word is bigger. That's because more than one of you has typed in the word family. So the words get bigger because more than one people are picking it. So the other thing you can do is if you want to pick an emoji, you can pick an emoji right now and hit send, and some emojis will start showing up. Now, I don't know, last group we had, I was a little nervous about them because beers and wine glasses started showing up. So I was like, uh-oh. So, all right, look, a pretty Christmas tree. We have Christmas tree people in here. Okay. So you guys see how this works? So these were just tests. Everybody's in. Nobody's having any techno problems. All right, so then let's go ahead and get started. Thank you, Stacy, for doing that. Get started with our real questions. So we're going to start off a little bit broad, and then we'll start getting into more specifics. So when you think about Adult Day and employment, and I was sort of reminded of this right up front where it says choosing where you want to live, work, and spend your day. So when you think about that array, we don't want planners to come in and just have all these new ideas and inadvertently throw away something that's working really well or discount something that's working really well. So my question to you is, what is working for your family that should be built into future recommendations. So you can write a sentence or two, a phrase. This really isn't built for like manifestos, so it's really more like, the sentence. So what's working that we wouldn't want to either accidentally toss aside, or it could be something that we should be cognizant of because we want to build on it. So what's working? You can see things are starting to scroll up. I'll refrain from talking for a minute so you can think instead of reading them all loud. But even if it scrolls off the bottom of the screen and you don't see it anymore, when we're all done, I'll print out a report and every single answer will come out on that report. Okay, so I'm pretty sure the little party hat was from the previous question. So either that or someone's having a very good time with the current system. So we have family involvement, individual choice, good school support, choices of activities within the chosen day program, fact that we're person-centered. We shouldn't assume that family member is a sole provider. The family members who can provide services is something to build on, and recognizing people as a unique individual. Does anybody want to expound on anything they wrote or add anything? All right. I know it looks like not everyone answered, so I don't know, just taking people a minute. Door-to-door transportation to adult day program. All right. Anybody still want in that hasn't had a chance to get in? Okay. Let's go to the next question. So what's not working for your family? Where is the system falling short? And again, we're looking overall with this question, adult day and the vocab and employment services. So looking across that system, what's not working? Okay, so some answers are starting to come in. Keep typing if you haven't got in yet. Interagency collaboration is a problem. SSA and county board does not inform us of anything, so a lot of communication there. School preparing students for transition. Continued commitment to program objectives. Transportation. Provider shortage and high turnover rate. Not enough options for employment. Not always focused on an individual's strengths, low pay for providers, the risk of becoming unemployed and without income when in a competitive employment market, transportation, big caps, big problem, knowing all the options and assistance that is available, transportation reliability and accessibility, systems still operate in a vacuum, lack of providers, lack of communication, and treat us like we are ignorant. Interagency collaboration again, connecting with the schools, not being able to do piecework for the severely to profoundly handicapped, not enough services and supports in some areas, limited employment options for those needing one-on-one support, lack of education regarding how work impacts benefits, a needs benefits analysis, and the complex needs are difficult to serve. Does anybody want to add to whatever they typed up there? Share a little more. Yes.
we're just getting started. My son is 17, and he is one of the complex needs. So, finding those things that are available. We have a great team, and they're very new working in our county. So we have the job navigators in the county. Like I said, we are one of the first clients. But he will be a very, very difficult, and although he still wants to work with. So, that's just a thing that, you want him to be happy, you want him to have progress. I don't want him put someplace that he's going to fail and then think that this is what work is all about, so I'm done for his coming years.
So being thoughtful about having a chance to speak.
Right.
Thank you for that. You're on.
I have a daughter who is working successfully, but it's not considered competitive employment, Hattie Larlam Doggy Daycare. Even though she gets points if she's late, she gets points if she's absent, they have very high expectations. She times in and times out. So we're at a crossroads because they feel she's ready for competitive employment. And I work actually in the competitive employment field for OD. But if she gets a job in competitive employment, there's absolutely a possibility that she will do great if she has a manager who will make minor accommodations. But if you get a job in competitive employment and you have that wonderful manager and it is a good fit and everything's going great, that manager can leave. And if the manager they're replaced with does not have the same level of compassion or patience or flexibility or inclusive nature, then the job can become unsuccessful.
Right.
You lose the job, you have nothing to do during the day, you can no longer afford your apartment, and you cannot go back to a, quote, training program, unquote. Also, my daughter has serious health needs that come and go. She will not qualify for FMLA because she probably will not put in the 1,250 hours that are needed in a year. So, even though I am very pro-competitive employment, I work in the field half for 10 years, when it comes to my own daughter, I am anxious.
Very, very well stated. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to move on to the next question because we're going to come back and revisit some of these very same issues again. Thank you guys for breaking the ice and sharing. All right, the next question. I know, I wasn't quite sure how to word this because I know if you're a parent or a sibling, you've been in it your whole life, but I'm just trying to get a sense of how long have you sort of been actively trying to navigate the system on behalf of your loved ones, just to get a sense of what you've seen and the transitions you've watched in the field. So I couldn't figure out exactly the right way to word that, but hopefully you get the gist of what I mean. Okay, most everybody's in, I would imagine. All right, that's good to know. So there's a solid 1/3 of us in the room that barely new to trying to navigate the system, and then we have other people who've been at it for a long time. So you've had different kinds of experiences. All right, thank you for that. So now I'm going to ask you a series of questions about recommendations. And I wanted to let you know there's going to be 3, so you don't have to try to get it all shoved into one answer. So I'm going to first ask you about what you would recommend or lessons learned, etc., around adult day. Then we're going to have the same question focused on the employment side, and then a third question around transportation. So if that helps you organize your thoughts a little bit. So here comes the first question. So if you were on the planning team and you could say to them, look, you're thinking about the next 5 years and recommendations. This is the most vital service to me, or the most vital thing I want you to address. What's your number one thing you want them to either work on, know about, etc., when we're talking about the adult day service side of the kinds of services you can receive? Okay, so some answers are coming in. Behavior support is up there 3 times already. Medical support, continued employment and training opportunities. A similar vein, employment in the community with a job coach because my child still needs protection. Integrated setting, continued work on skills and abilities, gaining skills and learning how to access the community even when not involved in the day program. Higher pay and benefits, so there's less turnover. One size doesn't fit all, so you have to serve both high and low functioning clients. Again, behavior support, and don't leave them there forever without working on skills. Smaller, quieter sites. We have lots of people up there with behavior support. Does anyone want to further illuminate what that challenge is or how that could be better?
I think, well, at least for my son, it's more about just understanding the way that he is able to work and that having the right types of supports, whether it's visual support, schedules, that kind of stuff, will help him with kind of managing behaviors. But if not having those things in place and really understanding what works for him and being able to include that behavior. So understanding what works for the individual and being able to have simple supports in place for that.
And individualizing things then.
Exactly.
So it doesn't escalate. Okay.
Yep.
Anybody else? Anything else?
I think it's staff training too. I think, with their turnover and support staff, they don't have all the tools they need to help.
So let me, if I can probe with you guys, and you can tell me this is not true. So I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I'm literally asking because I've had the opportunity now to do several of these, so I'm starting to see some themes emerging. So one of the family groups I talked to around this said that too many of the adult day services are boring to their loved ones, and that they think that's why a lot of the behaviors might spin because people are bored. Now I see you all nodding. So is that like a true? Now I don't know how. I imagine you have to really be creative and individualized again to not bore people, right? But I got strongly from another family group that they thought a big issue was that the things they do at Adult Day are just not that interesting to a lot of their family members. Do you guys have that experience, or not? Or is that part of it? I'm not saying it's a total answer. I'm just. So I see nodding. Does anyone want to elaborate? Just take it that you're all nodding. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I just visited a few just to kind of see what's out there for my daughter. She's 16 now, but I'm just trying to be prepared. And what I've just seen is people who never really worked in the field before, and this is just an easy job for them. And it's not an easy job. I mean, you have to be creative for each individual. And I don't see that happening. I just see people just coming in, looking for a job and getting a job with no experience with our kids.
Thank you for that. Yes, ma'am.
I think too that some of the adult day centers themselves are antiquated. When we talk about a 16-year-old, a 17-year-old, you have this generation that's been hyper-connected since birth, and we're not using the technology that's out there to help them. I mean, I know people can get assistive technology and all that type of stuff, but the centers themselves, it's almost like, and I'm going to say this, and I try not to offend anyone, but it's almost like they're senior centers.
Yeah.
I mean, and so we're not connecting with the youth that are transitioning.
Okay, that makes sense.
That is one of the things that we're looking at, because he is quite young, is that we have several options in our area and which ones have the younger population, because
There are so many, that are there in their 40s, 50s, and he's going to be going in at 18.
Right.
So having some more, like maybe of his peer group.
So we're not trying to say we shouldn't serve older people.
No,
but we're saying
no.
the younger group, this isn't going to cut it for them.
Right,
They're
right.
looking for something
They
different.
just need a little bit something different than what the other population needs.
Totally makes sense. Okay, thank you for letting me probe on that one a little bit more. I appreciate it. All right, let's go to the next question. And this one is similar, only asking what's the most vital support that you count on around employment services? That you might have a recommendation, or you just want to explain this is the most important thing you need to work on, but what's most vital to you to tell the planning team about employment services? And it's okay if you've maybe sort of already said it before in our what's working or not working. This helps us sort of see trends and see emphasis. So it's okay if you feel like you're repeating yourself. Okay, so answers are starting to come in. Don't force work if he or she isn't interested. Have a job coach for as long as honestly needed. Trial and error, trying out different jobs to see where they fit. Understanding the impact on benefits and taxes when an individual works, and all those implications can get complicated, right? Someone to think creatively, that there is not a large gap of no services, that there is. Oh, you don't want there to be a large gap of no services if they lose competitive employment. Continued mentoring, start offering services much sooner. Opportunities for failing in a safe setting. No one stays at one job for years, right? That's true for all of us. Training and support for success. The opportunity to try different jobs to best fit for an individual. Okay, so a couple of themes here is, one, try to help them figure out if they want it or not. Recognize it might not be the first job's a forever job. They might have to try some stuff. And then this theme of needing ongoing job coaches or mentoring. That also came up strong in the other family group I did, that they're doing okay, and then you pull that support a little too soon, and it falls apart. And for some people, they're like, you may need it long term, not short term. That resonate with you guys as well? Okay. Does anyone want to add anything to this piece? Yes.
I think the other thing too is that to not give up on the individual. If they try one thing and they're not successful at it, don't assume they wouldn't be successful at something else. I think it is just kind of continuing to give them opportunities until you, again, as I meant, find the best fit for them.
Thank you.
I think to recognize that perhaps if they're only working 2 hours a week, that's fine. If they're happy with that, then that's all they need to do.
So respect those individual choices. I think also that sometimes with employers, they look at this person as having a disability, so then they're so focused on what that disability is, instead of looking at them as an employee. If we have, as a supervisor, if we have employees that have strengths and weaknesses, we try and grow the strengths. We try and support kind of work on the weaknesses.
Right.
It's almost like, well, I'm, being a part of this program, and I have individuals with disabilities, but that's how they see them, versus seeing them as an employee. And what do we do for our own employees? Is we provide training, we provide services, we provide that support. It's almost like we treat them differently.
I see what you're saying.
And
There's
I'm
a
not-
whole cultural thing that needs to
Right,
flip
look
in
at
a
them as
way.
an employee. Every employee has weaknesses and has strengths. And that, and so if someone can only work 2 hours a week, okay. But during those 2 hours, what can we do to be able to support them?
Okay, so trying to figure out how to help employers switch that lens a little bit. Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to keep us moving because we can all smell pizza now. So here's what I propose. We'll answer one more question, then we'll take a break for pizza and come back. Does that sound good? Because I'm like, the lid's off. I'm like, oh no, they're getting cold. Okay, so the next question is similar question, only again, now we're going to talk about transportation. So a vital service you have now would be the one you want from transportation, or you have it now but you want it. What's the one thing you want out of the transportation system, or lack thereof? Okay, dependability, safety, reliability, being on time and reliable, on-time consistency. I see a theme. Safety, availability, reliability, would be great to hold services accountable for being late or not showing up at all. On time, options in case of cancellations by the transportation provider, ability, available outside that 8 to 5 window, especially as people are doing different schedules now, right? Weekends, different shifts, an on-demand service like Uber with screened certified drivers to safely transport individuals with disabilities. Okay, so there's a strong theme here. Just a little show of hands. How many of you feel like you get the transportation services you need now? One. Well, that's slightly underwhelming. Okay, one. So we have a big problem here. Yeah. I know. I wonder what driverless cars will do to fix this. I know. Everyone laughs, but I kind of do wonder if they were safe and we all actually wanted to get in the driverless car. That's a whole nother issue, right? Okay. All right. This is great. What I'm going to propose is we get up, grab our pizza, our drinks. If you guys are okay texting with your mouths full, we'll just take a short break while everyone gets to keep going. Is that all right with you guys? All right, great. We'll grab our pizza. We're about halfway done, so thank you so far.
And for folks joining us on Facebook Live, we're going to keep this rolling. So we're going to take like a 10-minute break here while people get here in the room. And then we're going to keep the video streaming. And then when we pick back up with the questions, it'll be interactive at that point in time as well. So hang tight. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
She's been here for 2 years now, but she just goes for 2 weekends
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, our kids are scary. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That'd be fun.
And then I got really confused, and then I had to go back and look and see. Oh, really? It's hard, like it It's not somebody else that just picks it up and does it. It's like, well, somebody. I want this. Must have to be bigger. I want to, I get it, but.
All right, are you guys good with texting and eating? I know, I feel like I'm being a little rude, like you're supposed to be having your social time, and I'm making you work. So you guys, when we put up on the screen how long you've been advocating or working in the field for folks, there was a split, but there was a relatively large group of newer folks as well, under 5 years. So what I'm curious about is, over that last 5 years, because there's been so much transition, and you guys, some of it's been good, some of it's been very worrisome. There's been a lot that's happened in this field in the last decade. So when you think about that, and you think about making a recommendation for the future, the next 5 years, what's a lesson learned that you're like, my goodness, planners, please at least have learned from what we all just went through? And it could have been something good that you want to reinforce, that you see as a lesson learned over the last few years, or it could have been a mistake that we can learn from and do better. So if you were sharing a lesson learned, if you were standing in front of the planning team, what's a lesson learned that you would want them to consider before they write recommendations for the next 5 years, when they're thinking about that, all the things involved with the adult day programming and employment services? So I give you a big meaty question when you've all got your lunch.
This only takes so many characters, doesn't it?
You know, honestly, I'm not sure. I've had people cite with a couple sentences, but otherwise just keep going. Like send one and pretend you're like, I've seen Donald Trump do that. He does a tweet that keeps going into 5 tweets. So imagine you can do the same thing. So I'll start reading. You can keep typing though if you're working on one. So lots of support for any changes made. Employment isn't for everyone. Parent involvement is essential. We know our kids best. Create a plan for information dissemination to families. Communication, you have to get the word out to everyone. All counties being on the same plan, being consistent. Remember that each person is a work in progress and shouldn't be pigeonholed into one route once they transition out of high school. Not everyone has to or wants to work, so don't force it. Communication, communicate. Not everyone has the same comprehension levels, meaning caregivers, we assume people understand things and they may not. Job loss shouldn't be the end of the road. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, but I shouldn't have to be so squeaky all the time to get what he needs. Good one. May have to pull that quote. The family's view of the individual's abilities influences the service plan. Information at state level does not trickle down. Maintain strong communication with families and guardians. Include families in the process, especially if assuming the parent will be transporting. Training the employer. Don't forget the basics of just being nice. So there's some themes here. In one group, and it was actually a group with some of the providers, or I'm sorry, it was the board staff, I believe. They were also emphasizing this communication and said they've seen that when you communicate really strongly to everyone, so everyone gets the message wherever they go, things just go smoothly, even if you know it's going to be hard. But even they've seen even easy things get all tripped up because no one knows. So they were saying the same thing that you're saying, that the communication has not been perfect most of the time the last few years, and that doesn't need to be an afterthought. It needs to be primary. Am I reading you? It needs to be a primary consideration. Okay. Okay. Not everyone wants to work. That's also been a theme. I want to probe a little bit with you guys. Part of Ohio, strength and weakness, is that there's a lot of homegrown local, depending on what county you live in, things are a little different. And some people think that's a real strength of the system. And we've also been hearing from people that it's turning into a bit of a problem, and that there needs to be more you can count on wherever you are. I don't know what's the right answer. Does anyone want to weigh in or help illuminate that from your perspective? I see a couple of sort of statewide uniform comments up there about lessons learned. It is Ohio's conundrum.
We're not isolated communities anymore. You know, you're talking to your neighbor who may get services somewhere else, or your church member, or your work coworker. You know, families network. And when they don't seem or don't feel they're getting the same services, it creates distrust and animosity and a feeling of being left out. And I think that's the biggest breakdown in how the counties work differently.
So it created a feeling of distrust, animosity, and what?
And feeling left out.
Feeling left out. Does anyone else want to weigh in on that point? Sort of cover it. This was the point the other a different group made as well. Was it was one thing maybe 15 years ago, but now between chat rooms and websites and everything going on, everyone knows, and you're all networking to get good answers for your family, loved one, and you find things out. And so they were basically pointing out things are different now. Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Does anyone else want to illuminate anything on lessons learned, or we'll go to the next question? All right. Thank you again. We've captured all of this. So the next question is a yes, no, or not sure, A, B, or C answer. Do you feel like you have adequate voice in the individual planning process? Yes, I'll try.
So there's one thing with people sitting around the table listening to you, but it's another thing
So I would just say adequate voice, if it doesn't show up in the plan, then it didn't work. That would be my,
It shows up in the plan, but it doesn't.
get implemented.
Right.
All right, well, you guys are leading me right into the next question then. No, that's okay. And don't worry, we're not like taking all this as like, you know, kind of gospel truth. We're just trying to get a feel for the room. So, and Lord knows, sometimes questions could be better designed, right? Yeah, no, it's a really good point you're raising. So the next question is, how could we make this individual planning process better from your perspective? What needs to happen to make it better from your perspective? So it sounds like one thing is what's on the plan needs to be actually implemented.
But then, if you say it's being implemented, the problem is, if you say it's being implemented, then the problem is, if you're not right over top of them, it still doesn't get done.
And who's them? Seriously, we're not putting any names. Are you like, who is them? Is it an SSA? Is it the county board? Is it all of the above? Is it the provider? Keep going. All of the above. The providers.
SSA.
And the SSAs. I want to do a follow-up with you guys. The SSAs come up a lot. What's your take on their role in the process? Does anyone want to share anything about their SSA? As a general rule, we're not calling any individual person out yet. Yes, ma'am.
They're the person that you can go to help find the resources and explain your needs, that they can figure out, you know, what exactly you need to help fit that need, if that makes any sense. We don't often know, and I know that we're supposed to go to them saying this is what we need, but my opinion was that they should be able to help us identify what that is when we're telling them that this is the problem that we have. That evidently that is not technically a part of their job duty.
So there's too much onus on you to know exactly, like, to do all the figuring out instead of...
Well, you know, sometimes you just don't...
You don't know, you don't know.
You don't know it, right. And, you know, so, and even if they don't, if they could point us in the direction of what might be, you know, available to meet our needs.
Okay, but at least for you...
Because we can't ask for
Right.
something that we're not aware of.
Right.
And, you know... And they can't be aware of everything either. I understand that. Just that, you know, that we just have a better way of finding the resources that are available to meet our specific needs.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to share anything? Okay. I should have said this earlier too. There are index cards on the table. So if there's anything you want to share or say that you don't feel like saying in front of the whole group, I'll collect index cards at the end as well.
Well, you know, I've been around forever, and put it mildly. And I remember, and I've also served the mental health population as well. And in the early years, the SSAs in DD were considered the best, and the mental health system was so envious of them. They're perfect, they're wonderful. They were considered wonderful jobs, well paid, whatever. And you know, since I've been at council, I can see that is no longer true. People, you're hard pressed to get them. They're leaving those jobs. They're not great, and clearly they're overburdened. They're supposed to be all things to all people, and they're saying, who needs this? You know, I can't do it either. So you probably are running into folks who once were good people but are burned out and tired. And the array of service, here I am, all I do running council is run around and listen to people like you to try to keep up with everything there is. And every time I go, I learn something. It's like, really? I don't know how an SSA could do it.
Yeah.
So it is, life has changed. There's a lot out there, but how the heck do you or the SSA find it out? So this has got to be taken a look at and rethought.
Yeah, they just have less paperwork to do. Maybe they could help the individual better. Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for that. So we also have some other thoughts up on the board that have come in while we're chatting, so I will make sure those are also captured and not ignored. All right, let's go to the next question. Another yes, no, not sure, maybe another not the greatest worded, but do you feel like you have adequate voice in how programs and services are designed and operated? And you can interpret that at the provider level, county board level, or state level, but do you feel like you're consulted when people put the actual programs and services together? Do you have some play in that? Okay, so it looks like there's strong room for improvement here. Okay, thank you for that. All right, let's go to the next question. Kind of the basic question, but it maybe cuts to the heart of the matter. When you think about adult day services and employment services, what keeps you up at night? What's your primary worry? If you're trying to help your family wherever they choose to live, work, and spend their day, what keeps you up at night when you think about that? What's your primary concern? So keep answering, but I'll start reading for those who can't see the screen. So boredom, not stimulated, making sure your son is safe and happy. When it's going good, will it last? Boredom, she can do more than what they give her to do. Quality of life, this can't be it. Is my family member feeling happy and self-fulfilled where they're at? The fact we are not planning for baby boomer retirement cliff, there will not be enough people to fill the jobs and the pay is so low. My son being in a safe and caring environment. Not enough places to send persons that don't just sit around doing nothing. Also, medically fragile DD clients who want to participate have few to no options. My child will be harmed in some way because I am not there to protect them. My child's coworkers and supervisors that don't understand his special needs, which are autism. The happiness of my child that he feels satisfied with where he is going. Doing. Having quality, invested individuals that actually care working with my loved ones. How to make the system work for the range of clients. That options are limited and individuals will not find meaningful and fulfilling jobs. So one of the things we want to do with your permission is put some of these kinds of quotes in front of the planning team. And, you know, I promise there won't be a moment where I say, and you wouldn't believe what Mike said about you. But it would just say a family member. So they get a sense that these are some of the front of mind things that have to stay front of mind for them. Hopefully that will be all right with you guys. Is that okay? Because some of what you just said there is very eloquent and heartfelt. So thank you for sharing those thoughts. All right, so I'm going to ask you two recommendation questions. So the first one's going to be, if you were on the planning team, and you know those of you guys, a lot of you have done planning, that pesky moment where the facilitator puts a blank flip chart off, and you have to go around the room and everyone puts a proposal up, it's that moment. So I want you to give me your top proposal. First we'll put adult day up, then we'll put a second question up about employment services. Okay, we're going to do two. So the first one is, if I have that blank flip chart up and you have to make your top recommendation for the next 5 years about what needs to happen within the adult day programming, and this would show up in the report, what's your recommendation? Bless you. So I'm going to start reading. Keep adding, though. Diversity in programming, opportunities for real connection, continued strengths-based education, figure out a way to hire quality people that are truly invested in the job, making the adult day services technical-based so they can learn this skill, provide adult day hubs that provide continuing adult education and practice, diversity in programming and staff, adequate staff level to be able to provide enough diversity and options, provide adult day hubs that provide continued adult education and practice, transparency about what do they offer and where do they fall short, prepare for the young adults entering and plan ahead for any changes for those who have to face changes, honesty, all of the agencies need video access, activities and opportunities that are meaningful, individualized, and well supported by knowledgeable, caring staff. Provide opportunities to learn and grow, to be the individual they were born to be and fulfill their purpose in life versus adult babysitting. Having some kind of accountability that is the same across the board, an organized way of tracking what they offer and how they are doing the job, a rating scale. There's some really good ideas up there and some things where you could see you could build off of them. Director Davis has made it clear to us that this process is about adult day and employment services, and maybe in the last few years adult day hasn't gotten the light it deserves. So he's made it very clear to us that he expects recommendations on both sets of those services and programming. So these ideas are very, very helpful. Okay, anybody want to put a fine note on this, or I'm going to keep going to the next questions, okay? All right, so the same question, the same blank flip chart, only this time you're on the employment services side of the house. What would be a recommendation you would make if you were on the planning team? Think out for the next 5 years. Okay, keep typing. I'm going to start reading. More focus on individual's experience and not a job placement. Having job coaches that can stay as long as an individual truly needs them. Individuals with more complex needs are being completely left behind. Account for continuous support and follow-up based on the individual's needs and life changes. Find a way to make teaching vocational soft skills interesting and meaningful. More opportunities for CAR. Is that a transportation? Did you really mean CAR, or is CAR a program I don't know about? For what?
More opportunities for career exploration.
Career, okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. I was like, well, you never know.
He really wants a car.
Don't we all, right? Go to different organizations and companies and ask them to start a program that supports our young adults, and then we can train the staff. Collaborate with ODE in the schools to better prepare students for transition age appropriate skills. Again, more opportunities for career exploration. Match person to job they want with skills needed and room to grow. Never define a person by their disability and what they can't do if they don't. Provide supports and accommodations needed for education on the job site. Truly be person-centered. Don't keep them in a tunnel. Once they accomplish one area, expand to more things for them to do on the job. Incentivize businesses to provide job coaches and positions for individuals with disabilities. My two primary concerns are the continued need for my son's vocab work center, making use of FLSA 14C, and the continued need for freedom of choice within that. Room for growth. Give everyone a chance on all kinds of jobs, not just cleaning and stocking shelves. Never define a person by their disability and what they can't do. If they don't know they can't do it, maybe they will surprise you. That employers be educated on how much individuals have to offer. Okay, a lot of good stuff there. Anybody who hasn't maybe spoke up yet want to add anything? No? Okay. Last question then. Thank you for this. So I'm going to give you guys the primo spot. The planning team has convened and you're the kickoff keynote speaker. What's the main thing you're going to say to them before they even start planning? What's the fundamental reason they need to do something different, the fundamental thing they need to fix, keeping the main thing, etc. You're the keynote speaker. What do you want to tell them? It could be on anything we've already talked about. It could be on something we haven't touched on. What do you want to put front and center in front of the planning team? What fundamentally must be addressed for an effective go-forward plan or model? They're thinking 5 years out. Going, but I'll start reading. Be sure to get lots of feedback from families and individuals. Our individuals deserve the same quality of life as their typical, I assume, sibling is what you mean. Everyone needs to be seen and heard. Let's make this happen. Remember, this is about a real person. What's going on currently isn't working. Make sure there is accountability, another theme I'm seeing through what you guys have said. Thanks for addressing this. We must consider the individual and their specific needs. Accountability. Feedback from individuals. What do they want and need? This conversation has been the same for the last 15 years, basically a broken record. Nothing on a statewide level ever changes. Be the change agent. Don't wait for someone else to make it happen. You be the change. Consider creating an educational, incentivized plan for individuals going into the day hab or employment arena. Okay. So I assume there'll be a few more. Keep scrolling up. That's fine. Keep working. Does anyone want sort of the final word or a final takeaway? Anyone who hasn't said anything yet? Just anyone at all who wants to get still in this hopper? Two more have come up. Need to increase options, and they need to be meaningful for the individual served. And how would you want this to look like if it was your loved one? Okay. So you can keep typing. I'll leave this up for a second. If you're like me, you'll have your brilliant idea driving home. So I believe in your handouts, you have both my email and Stacy's. So in all honesty, if you think of something you wish you would have brought up, or if you know a program or something that's working really well that you wish the planners would emulate or take to scale, anything like that, feel free to email Stacy or I, and we'll make sure it gets in this process. Because I swear to you, I always think of my brilliant thing driving home or when I'm laying in bed at night, like, oh, should have said this. So if that happens with you, please feel free to pass it on to me or Stacy, and we will make sure it gets put in the hopper. So I think you have these handouts, right, Steve? So you have this on your handout. I also want to ask, planning team's probably going to start in January. I think you guys next meet in March. Is that right? You're like quarterly or April? My guess is Stacy or I will probably be back at that time with maybe some at least initial stuff coming out of the planning team to get your reaction to, if that's okay with you. So instead of, wide open, something you bounce off of and say, wrong path, right path. So hopefully it will be okay with you to pop back at that time. Okay, cool. Thank you. And then we'll put up the next slide, just, I think it just says thank you, but the one after that. So thank you. And then as I pick up stuff, or if anyone has anything on the cards, if there's anything else you just want to add about what we did today, any kind of catch-all, I'll leave this up here for a couple of minutes. So I appreciate so much you spending time. I know we maybe didn't go into as deep a discussion, but being able to pull your reports and have your actual words later will really be invaluable to the process. So thank you for your time. Thank you guys for being such advocates in the field for what you do every day for your loved ones. none of it would work without you. None of it would work without you, because no one has the same appreciation for that person that you do. So thank you so much for that and for your time today.
You know, Steve, I wanted to say, someone put there that this stuff's been going on for 50 years and, you know, nothing ever changes, whatever. I don't agree. I've never seen this kind of continuing work with families month after month. What do you want? What do you need? What are the problems? What can we do? I think this is a real opportunity for change. So this is a bit of an people are recognizing that it's been the same for 15 years and they're saying, okay, let's do better. I think that's really genuine. So, man, speak up.
Yeah, well said. Thank you. Anybody else? All right, Steve, I think I'm passing the baton back to you.
All right. Now go change the world. Like that one.
That's a lot of pressure on one planning team.
No, we're gonna make Steve it.
Okay, I feel better. Put it all on Steve.
So thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Stacy, for taking the opportunity to pick everybody's brains here. And the folks online, thank you for participating as well. We're going to do just a little bit more around what we're going to do or what our plan is for supporting families in 2020. So I'm going to pull the main presentation back up, so give me just a second to do that. And then after that, we will kind of go into our table groups and start talking about what makes sense and what doesn't make sense over what I'm about to share with you. So give me one moment while I switch these out. All right, so I'm going to breeze through a lot of this. All this you already know. You're here or you're viewing online, so you know about the Family Advisory Council. Obviously, that's going to go forward. Core group is definitely going forward. We've got a new group of folks coming in January. Really excited about seeing what they have to say, what their vision is for this council moving forward in the next year. So obviously, those two things are moving forward into 2020. Organization Forum is, we started this in the past year. It really is a place for family organizations to send their representatives to kind of get information directly from the department and also to provide us with feedback. What are the families in your organization saying? What is it they need? What is working and what's not working in the area of supporting families? So we'll continue those quarterly meetings as well. The community of practice for supporting families will enter into its next year. I've got some updates coming up here in just a second. Those will continue on a quarterly basis as well. The watch parties, we keep hearing more and more of them are picking up. That's a good thing. So again, if you can't make it to a meeting, whether it be a family advisory council or a community of practice, these are streamed online. You are welcome to stream them into a library, a county board, provider agency. Bring some families together in your local area, network, share. It's an awesome opportunity. And all the videos are archived as well. So if there's a specific topic that you know about, that families in your area are passionate about or have questions about, feel free to pull one of those videos, have a watch session. Family Connection is our newsletter. That will obviously continue going forward as well. We're going to do a different spin on family talk next year so that you don't have to hear as much from me, which I think everybody would agree is a good thing. It's going to be more of a conversation between a family member and a subject matter expert. So whatever the question is, we will ask a family member to ask those questions directly to the subject matter expert and have the conversation back and forth between the two of them instead of me kind of getting in the way with facilitating that conversation. So we're going to try that spin on it. We'll see how it works, but that's kind of where we're moving at. The 5 things you need to know about series. Is anybody accessing those? Anybody know about them? So those are short videos. We just started this last year as well. 2 3-minute videos around a topic. Big picture, real quick videos. but with resources at the end if you need more information. So we're going to be doing more and more of those. In the Facebook world, we have 2 forums right now, the Family Forum and the Early Childhood Forum. If you're not a part of them, feel free to join them. If you just search them in the Facebook search tool, you can find it there and join them. And then, of course, all of social media. So some new things that we're going to be trying. So we did 2 pilots of this year, regional family talks. So we're coming to local communities. So we did one in Cleveland and one in Cincinnati this year. Essentially, we bring DODD staff to your area for a day-long, open, kind of resource fair, if you will. So for those of you who may not know, DODD has regional staff all across the state to provide technical assistance in various areas. And so what we're doing is we're going into locations and bringing that staff there for families to come in and connect with them and answer questions that they might have. So we're going to try to do between 8 and 10 locations in 2020. And these are some of the topics that we'll try to cover, have subject matter experts from the department there. So community and residential resources, the ISP, service coordination, Medicaid supports, charting the life force, all the technology, adult day support and employment. Stacy's team, she has regional folks all over the state. Trauma-informed care, behavioral supports, the whole MUI system, and early intervention. So those are the big topics that should be at each one of them. We may have local subject matter experts as well, depending on the location and what's available. So the community practice is going to look a little bit different. Previously, we've had statewide meetings, just quarterly, open to anybody, which is great, but just had a whole lot of conversation that went in a whole lot of different directions. So in this next year, what we want to try to do is be very topic specific. So we get folks in the room who are both experts in the area and are passionate about specific so that they're more targeted, more focused, and more intentional on the information given. So we're going to try to base them on the life domains, and we're going to pair them up in ways that make sense. So we'll be looking for that in 2020. That's going to be a little bit of a change of how those meetings are run. We're also going to do a showcase in 2020 around charting the life course. So folks who have seen charting the life course, had the 101, maybe you're tired of hearing about the trajectory, the star, the one-page profile, because that's all you hear about. What this showcase will allow for is for folks to go deeper. How do you actually implement it? What are some best practices? What are some examples of how it's being used across the state? So this will be for families, this will be for folks with disabilities, this will be for professionals. We hope to have CEUs for social work, county boards, SSAs, providers. So hopefully, if you think of, if you've been to the Tech Summit, it's going to be kind of the same format as the Tech Summit. Now we're really going to be moving a lot of our Charting the Life course information that you might see in person. We know not everybody can get to in-person sessions. So we're really going to start creating some video modules, some downloadable resources, so that's easy to access for folks across the state to at least get a taste of what Charting the Life course is and have a better idea of how it can be used. One of the big projects we're going to be doing in the next 18 months, starting on January 1, is what we call the Ohio Family Network. So this will essentially be family-led organizations who will be developing networks in their area, at least 3 counties, possibly more. And it's really about empowering families to make connections to each other and to their communities. And the really important part of the Ohio Family Network is it's going to be led by families. And so it'll be somebody with a disability, a sibling, a mom, a dad, a grandparent. These networks will be led by family members. So that's the that. It's modeled after the Oregon Consortium, I always say that word wrong, Consortium of Family Networks. So if you want to get kind of a preview of what we hope it looks like in Ohio, the website's up there. Their family network is run by their DD Council in Oregon. The foundation of the networks should be asset-based community development. And so it's more about what are the strengths of the community, what are the strengths that the families can tap into, where are the places that those strengths can be built upon. So it's really up to those networks to find those, pull those out, and build upon them. And then we'll be using three main resources that we think are really important. Growing family resilience, I'll say a little bit more about that in a minute. The Charting the Life Course framework, and then families at the center of a connected community. I went through that kind of fast just for the sake of time. Anybody have questions about this? This is going to be a grant-funded project, so grants will be awarded later this month. The RFPs have already come in, and then we're going to get it in January of 2020. 18 months.
And Steve, how much money did you put up toward those grants?
All in total, our cap is $600,000.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Just for
Try to put a little bit of an investment in it. So these family networks are going to build on the three resources that I just said. Charting the Life Course has been around for a little bit. The other two are also state-funded resources that the family networks will have to use, but can also be utilized in other family organizations or other areas as well. Growing family resilience is based on trauma-informed care. In 2018, we did a little bit of this called the Family Engagement Series, which we kind of planted our flag and said, this is an awesome thing, come visit us, we promise it's good. And we had a few folks come, but not a whole lot. So this year we're doing a little bit different. Instead of the 2-day module, we are actually going to be doing just a day-long program that will be hosted by these networks. So the families are already a part of the networks, they're not coming to us, we are going to them. It's going to engage families in recognizing, appreciating, building on individual and collective resilience. It'll be a curriculum taught by Word and Profluence. So those of you that might know, Sarah Buffy and Claudia Lopez. And these are the three major goals coming out of this Growing Family Resilience project. I don't want to read them all word for word for you, but it is essentially trauma-informed care for family members. We don't say that explicitly because a lot of families don't understand that they've been through trauma or that secondary trauma is in their life. So try to put it in terms that folks can relate with, but this is essentially trauma-informed care for families, tools and strategies that they can use in their lives. Families at the Center of a Connected Community is essentially one-off projects that families can do to connect themselves, the person with a disability, siblings, whoever it might be, to connect with their community. It's a value-based method. It includes innovative models of connecting people, local resources, people, and supports. Again, this is all of this individual person connecting to an individual business, their community, their location, whatever it might be. And the goal is to provide facilitators, mentors, to guide families through this process. So this won't be just, we're going to drop in and give you the information. So we're going to drop in, we're going to give you the foundation, and then there'll be monthly follow-alongs from there. This is kind of piloted by Starfire down in Southwest Ohio. Many of you are familiar with their programs. So they've already done this. You can see the examples on their website. Again, they just have a few because they've just been doing it on their own. We think it's a neat model, and we're going to have the family networks and the Ohio Family Network also provide this as well. I think I already said most of that. The monthly remote video conference calls is the follow-along I was referencing to support the network. And really, they have the families, like I said, that have already done it, and those families are going to become the mentors for each of these family networks. So it'll be families, a parent-to-parent, a family-to-family type connection. So I have just a couple visuals here to kind of, I put a lot of words up on the screen. But these are kind of how it looks as far as the strategy. So this is, the Charting the Life course, Growing Family Resilience, and Families at the Center of a Connected Community. Those are all strategies that we see as being helpful for families across the state. So obviously they'll be a part of the Ohio Family Network and the family-led organizations, but all of these will be put into online modules as well. So even if you're not a part of those family networks, you can attend one of the in-person sessions they'll all be available online in one way or another. There'll be family sessions statewide. The curriculum, materials, and marketing will all be done statewide. And then the data and ROI is all based on quarterly and comprehensive annual reports. So if you take that bottom left quadrant, and then this extrapolates on that, where the Ohio Family Network implementation plan is going to be based on asset-based community development, obviously materials and marketing to get the information to families, goods and services provided in the community, information and tools that families can access, and then the most important thing in my mind is the connecting and networkings of families with other families in the areas. So you know when all this is rolling out by staying connected with us. We have a whole page on the website just around the different options that you can stay connected with DODD when these family networks get rolled out, when the Growing Family Resilience gets rolled out. All those things, we'll use all of these to communicate them. So try to at least stay involved with Family Connection, which is the newsletter, and the Facebook forums, the Facebook page, social media. We will get this information out as much as we can, but unless you are connected with us, it's hard for us to get that information to you. So please try to do that. And then lastly, we did this last year, and we had some good success with it. We are doing another family engagement survey. We like to do this at the end of the year to kind of get a gauge on what are we doing that's working for folks, and what are we maybe missing the mark on, what's not being used or useful anymore. So if you have a moment, fill out the survey for us. It's really, really helpful. That's where the 5 things came from. That's where all different resources come from, is from direct input from families. So let us know what we could be doing better in 2020 to communicate and engage with you. That's all I got for the updates for 2020. Any questions?
Not doing too much, right?
No.
Not doing too much, are
Not much, no. Any suggestions or anything that's confusing or misses the mark? Quiet. I should have the text message thing too. I get more honest responses that way. Okay, so if there's nothing else there, I'm going to say goodbye to our Facebook Live folks. The rest of the day we're going to be doing kind of table work here, family experiences here in the room. So I appreciate everybody who participated.